and welcome. My name is Will Acosta.
And I'm Molly Malone, and we're representing HR for Kaiser Permanente.
We're so happy to sponsor SHRM Atlanta and the SHORE 2018 conference. Today's keynote speaker, Dr. Sheldon Goode, will be up in just a moment. Dr. Goode is the Executive Director of Diversity and Inclusion at MARTA, which I'm proud to say Kaiser Permanente has served as a customer of theirs since 2011.
With diversity being one of the themes in today's keynote, we'd like to take a moment to share with you how much diversity means to our corporate culture. Kaiser Permanente has always held diversity and inclusion as a very high standard that we keep close to our hearts.
Y'all, we see equity, diversity, and inclusion as key drivers to our business. We acknowledge healthcare disparities that diverse populations deal with and have a number of care and treatment options to deal with those disparities.
Our culture thrives on people from all backgrounds, working together to help our members and our communities get healthy, stay healthy, and thrive. Our goal is to keep all employees healthy. Supporting their health and your employees' health supports the health of your business. It's why Kaiser Permanente provides services like the mobile health vehicle you may have already seen today. We can bring wellness to your workplace. Your employees can receive biometric screenings, immunizations, and coaching to manage or prevent chronic conditions right at your work site. A healthy workforce is a happy workforce, and a happy workforce is a productive workforce. While you're here today, please check out the mobile health vehicle if you haven't already and see how we've cared for thousands of members of Kaiser Permanente across the Atlanta metro area in 2017.
We believe recruiting and cultivating a diverse talent pool is crucial to achieving our key business objectives. It's why Kaiser Permanente continues to strive to distinguish itself as a socially conscious leader that supports and empowers its workforce and consistently rates at the top of Diversity Incorporated's list of top 50 companies for diversity.
And it's why we're happy to introduce today's keynote speaker. Supporting and empowering our diverse workforce is a top priority for today's keynote speaker as well. Dr. Sheldon Goode is the Executive Director of Diversity and Inclusion for MARTA. He has a proven track record of leading diversity and inclusion programs for major companies while creating robust training and successful outreach programs with global organizations. Please join Will and I in welcoming Dr. Goode.
Hello. Oh, come on. We're all HR people, and as HR professionals, we've all had to facilitate, do a speech, do a presentation that followed lunch. So y'all know this is the toughest keynote speaking time, right? So give a brother some love, please. Hello. As a gold sponsor, I bring you greetings from the MARTA Board of Directors, our brand new General Manager and CEO, Jeffrey Parker, and the over 5,000 men and women of MARTA who every day help connect people and create communities. And yes, Holly and Christine and Janine and everybody else, we're gold this year, but we're going up to the next level next year. I know it. A little bit about my organization, which I'm proud of because of our Ride with Respect and Work with Respect culture change initiatives. We're the 8th largest transit system in the country, formed in '71. 7.9 million annual passengers, which is almost 500,000 every day. And this is phenomenal considering we only serve 3 of the metro Atlanta counties in the city of Atlanta. We obviously are looking forward to the legislation that comes out of the state, out of the State House, which we hope will allow us to be able to provide service to more of the Atlanta metro area. So let's set some context for the discussion today. As HR professionals, how many of us would love to have a crystal ball, right? That we could look into and be able to see what was coming so we can get ahead of it, so we could help our organization. So consider me a time traveler, if you will. I've come back from the year 2040 with some very interesting news. Need you to pay attention because these trends, if you do not start factoring them into your HR strategy, into your workforce planning strategy, into your diversity and inclusion strategy, you're going to be behind the curve by the time 2040 gets here. You say, Dr. Goode, what's a mega trend? Well, mega trend is a trend that's occurring. It's inevitable. It's going to impact all organizations, all industries, all sectors, for-profit, nonprofit, governmental and non-governmental, and global organizations. These things are coming. I know, I came from the future, so I'm here to tell you. What trends are we talking about, Shelton? We're talking about population trends. We already know, and we're experiencing this right here in our own metro area. Tremendous growth. That's obviously bringing with it tremendous changes in the workforce, which is driving, and those of us in the education sector, K through 12, college and university, know that we're having to respond to these workforce and population changes with different education strategies. Economics. Try driving around this city and not see a crane. There is a tremendous growth. I travel the country and I do not see the sort of economic growth that I'm seeing here in the Atlanta Metro anywhere else in the country, and that includes New York and LA. This is bringing with it some very interesting things. We have talent gaps that is being brought about by rapid changes in workforce needs, as well as the fact that we just don't have enough people to fill jobs. Those of you who may be in transition, hold tight, hold on to your patience because your opportunity is right around the corner. There are more opportunities than there are people. This is also driving major culture changes. It's driving the way people, the values, the perspectives that they're bringing into the workforce and how the workforce is going to respond. And then, of course, the workplace itself. Tremendous changes. And then what workplace, what company, what sector, what industry has not been impacted by what's happening socially, culturally, and a lot of that being driven by the media. So let's dig into these trends a little bit. First, some questions that we're going to try to address today. And you should be thinking about these. How are these mega trends going to affect my organization? How are they going to affect my community? How are they going to affect the country? And how are they going to affect me? Everyone is going to be affected, and I can say that with supreme confidence. As you look at this representation of a typical organization, you see your policies, you see your processes, your practices, your procedures, you see your values, your mission, but then underneath, right now, you cannot pick up a paper, turn on the radio, watch the television, and not hear things being discussed that are showing up and impacting in the workplace. And they're showing up in the form of personal behaviors, unconscious beliefs and biases, undiscussables. As HR professionals, you should be the person that has their ear to the door and is aware of the sort of things that are driving your employees' concerns and anxieties, and how those concerns and anxieties are impacting on their engagement and productivity. The organization is counting on you to be able to bring that to them, not just the problem, but obviously the solution. So everyone is being impacted by the trends that we're going to talk about. What I hope to accomplish today, what I hope you will walk out of here with is a few things. Number one, an additional lens from which you can look at work in the workplace. Obviously, that new view, that new perspective is not going to be very helpful if you don't have some tools and some resources for diagnosing all of these changes that are taking place. I'm going to share with you a few best practices about how some organizations are responding to these mega trends. And at the end of the day, as the professional in the organization that is ultimately driving your diversity and inclusion initiatives, your culture change initiatives, your HR policies and practices. Hopefully, with this new information, it will help you make some quality decisions as you deal with all of these cultural and societal changes. So let's go ahead and get into some of these trends. Let's talk about the population. All you have to do is drive around this great metropolitan area of ours or around the country, and you will see incredible population shifts. A quick snapshot of what we used to look like back in 2000, and then you see a shift in 2010, and you will see what is projected to look like in 2020. If you continue that out, it is not hard to be able to see that the country is becoming more and more diverse. While we are becoming more diverse, which is a good thing, we're becoming more segregated. As you look at this picture of some areas around the country, one of the things that is disturbing me is that you have divided communities where you have people of color in particular living in your urban areas. You have whites in particular moving to the suburbs, meaning that people are moving out further and further. This has tremendous impacts on who you're going to be able to recruit and bring into your workforce. Because if you live here in Atlanta, one of the main things that we know is traffic, right? And how many people, I've heard several people say that, well, I live in Henry County, I'm not going to take a job in Alpharetta. Sure, it's a nice drive, but when you add our traffic to it, it makes it unbearable. So think about the impact of this more diverse, but even more segregated populations and the impact they have. We're also getting older, and as you look at the numbers here, imagine if you would look at the number of people that are reaching 100. The implication for this is that as people live longer, as a result of making personal lifestyle changes, along with great technology and healthcare brought about, like our Keynote sponsor, Kaiser Permanente, people are living longer. So therefore, they're going to be making different choices about their life, about where they work, live, and play. Implications for your organization? Well, there's several. We see that right here in our own region, the regional population for Hispanics and Latinos and other ethnic groups are increasing from 54% all the way up to almost 70% by the year 2040. You're going to see a correspondingly decline in the white population to about 31% by the year 2040. This shift means that you're going to have varied education demands, greater worship options, and you're going to have increased variations in artistic and cultural interests. Let's take it. So you can't have this sort of population shift without it having a direct and almost immediate impact for the workforce. So let's take a look at some of the trends we're going to see there. Women and people of color and immigrants are going to comprise 70% of the new entrants into the workforce. You say, well, so what, Dr. Goode? Well, by 2040, you're talking about 57% almost of the U.S. workforce being women. And obviously, millennials are going to constitute even a larger segment of the workforce, outpacing Generation Xers by 30 million. You can't, again, if you've been on this planet for the past few months and you know about the Me Too movement and others, as a diversity and inclusion professional, it is my job and it is your job as HR professionals to make sure that our workplaces are inclusive. If your workplace is not inclusive and welcoming for women, not only are you not going to be able to recruit females to your workforce, but you're not going to be able to retain the ones that you already have. This diversity challenge is only exacerbated by the fact that we have 5 distinct generations in the workforce, each with its own values, each with its own way that it likes to, well, I tell you what, if they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video has to be worth 1,000,000. So let's take a look at this video and let's talk about how true this may be for your organization.
Would you look at those two?
If you ask me, they're just afraid of anything that doesn't plug into the wall. I've tried to help Sally out with the new software program. She just stares at the screen as if it ought to talk to her. She even asked me once where the user's manual was. It never even crossed her mind to look for it online.
Seriously, in our team meeting last week, the manager said he needed some historical trending data. Gerald says he'll make some phone calls and see what he could find out. In the meantime, I do an internet search and I have the answers in about 2 seconds. He's so behind the times.
I almost feel sorry for them. I mean, if they don't keep up with the new technology, they could find themselves out of a job before too long.
And they've both been here forever. I don't know if they'd be able to survive anywhere else if they could get hired.
I wonder if they could even live without some gadget glued to their hands.
No kidding. Can you imagine them working here before we had email?
They'd be lost, I'm sure. Write a letter? Yeah, right. I mean, really, all they do is send texts and post stuff on the internet.
Well, they don't know what real work is. They've been spoon-fed their whole lives. They think they're doing us a favor by working here. But then when they get tired of this, they'll just go someplace else. Remember when loyalty mattered?
Tell me about it. I spent 20 years working my way up in this company. Those two will probably start taking job interviews once they realize what they have to do to move up.
So true. But look at them, all those tattoos. They'll never make it past the interview. Maybe they'll work from home.
That's cool.
Okay, this is the audience participation time. Let's see from a show of hands, how true or sort of true is that maybe for your organization? Come on, be honest. We are all HR professionals. Okay, look around the room, guys. Look around the room. How do we get generations with those distinct perspectives and those distinct views on work, workers in the workplace to work together to be effective, to be engaged, to work as a team? How do we do that without some sort of intentional strategy, right? Now, if this doesn't resonate with you, because I know some of you right now, you're not feeling me. It's like, nah, that's not true in my organization. I don't know about you. I'm a boomer, and I have 2 millennial sons. And I can remember me and my youngest son, who's now a Navy, a PA, a physician assistant in the United States Navy. We were working out, and of course he was bragging about, come on, old man, keep up, keep up. And when he was spotting me on the bench press and I was struggling, he says, Daddy, what is that on your belt? I says, what do you mean? That thing. I says, oh, that's what I play my music on. That's what I'm listening to, you know. He says, but what is it? I says, well, it's a cassette player. Hey. I'm not the only boomer in here. Hey, come on now, come on. Don't be laughing at the brother. Some of y'all feel me on this. He says, a cassette player. He says, how do you get the music on it and how many songs does it hold? I says, well, it holds about 8 songs on one side and 8 songs on the other side. He put the bar down. He says, Daddy, get up. We're going to Best Buy right now, and we're going to get you an iPod that can hold thousands of songs. And come on, old man, we need to catch you up. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you going to get a workplace that work together when some of us still remember these? Okay, this is my original cassette player, and it still has some of my songs on it. And I'm not getting rid of my cassette player yet. Yes, I do have an iPod, and yes, my son has done some reverse engineering, and I try to pass along some knowledge to him. He obviously tries to tries to get me over to Instagram, which I still haven't moved to, but the challenge is still the same. And without an intentional strategy, we're not going to be able to get there. So let's move along. All right. More workers are also approaching retirement, but if you think that they are going to retire and you don't know, you may want to ask them. Because as you look at industries here, between industries with the greatest, particularly the percentage of white workers between 55 and 65, you can see the percentage that are approaching retirement. This is very, very, very important because industries like transportation, industries like utilities, are primarily, in manufacturing, are primarily, you look at the percentage of the workforce and you're going to see it be primarily, if not overwhelmingly white. However, I showed you a statistic already that showed that the new entrants into the workforce are going to be people of color and women. And so if you've got a workforce built one way, but it may not be attractive to recruiting and retaining the future workforce, then you're going to need an intentional strategy, a workforce planning strategy to prepare and make that transition. Implications for your organization, my goodness, there's so many. For an example, the Latino population, already the largest minority group, is going to triple. And it's going to account for most of the nation's workforce growth between 2020 and 2040. By the year 2040, 39% of the U.S. workforce is going to be workers with Hispanic Latino origin, as compared to only 14% in 2010. By 2040, nearly one in five Americans are going to be immigrants, compared to only 1 in 8 in 2010. That is a startlingly statistic when you compare it against all of the debate around immigration that's taking place in the country. Workforce demographics are changing rapidly. Organizations must adapt, develop inclusive workplaces, and learn to connect across cultures, or they're going to be left behind. Let's take a look at education. Population, workforce, education is either one of the things you have to plan for ahead of time, or one of the things you have to react to. And I'm going to tell you, we've got some trends that are going to blow you away. Because right now there's 165 million students in grades 9 to 12. Of this enrollment, only 33% plan to go to college to get a 4-year degree. For the period 2022 to 2025, only 5.4 million college graduates with a 4-year degree will enter the U.S. labor pool. Think about this. Think about your job descriptions. Think about our job descriptions that we have that say things like college degree preferred, 4-year degree, college preferred. So we have a workforce that currently today puts a value on a 4-year degree, but you've got folks in high school and as you're going to see in a minute, in middle school that's not planning on getting a 4-year degree. So what are you going to do about that? When you add to the statistic I just shared with this particular one here, where you have 39 million students enrolled in middle school, 79% think having a corporate career is not an important part of a happy life. 70% do not equate the type of job with success, and 65% do not want to climb the corporate ladder. You are talking about a completely, distinctly different workforce that is coming in, that's in the pipeline, and it's going to be coming into the workforce that we have now. Right now, we place a premium on things like education, on things like, well, everybody wants to, be the next VP and things like that. And what these young people are telling us is, may not be the case. And again, there's all kind of anecdotal data that goes with that. Implications for your organizations, you're going to have to get into the education business. We are going to have to get into the education business and begin to educate the workforce that we want. We are going to have to, unfortunately, reduce our reliance on education and universities as the primary provider of education for our future talent. This also means that we're going to see a real increase in wages as companies try to invest in technology to invest in technology as they try to automate their way out expensive labor costs. So let's make sure we understand this, because this is coming. You've got companies that now are going to have to invest in education and educate the workforce they want. That's going to be a cost. In order to get some of the talent you want, you're not going to be able to rely on colleges and universities, which means you're going to have to hire mid-career hires from other companies. And that's going to drive up your labor cost. And if you don't believe me, at my former company, in 2 years, we saw sign-on bonuses go up 17% in 1 year, as people knew that they had more options. Those have real implications to the company's bottom line. And as a result of that, the first thing that, again, I was in a manufacturing company, the first thing we started talking about was how could we start automating some processes and some of the things that we did, because the labor cost was just skyrocketing faster than profits. Economics. We're in a very, very, very good time. We all remember, even though it may have felt like a millennium ago, we can all remember the tough times of 2009, 10, and 11. Those were tough times, but in some respects, for those of us in HR, they were good times. There were people being let go. We could bring in some really good talent, and we could get them for almost a fraction of the cost that we could get them before the downturn. Folks, those good times are over. The economy is back, and it is back in full force. We are talking about 2.3 million jobs being added every year, just between now and 2020. You're talking about wages projected to increase by 2.9%, and I already showed you a stat about the shortage of labor, the increase in wages. You're talking about a labor market that's tightening. Unemployment rate is projected to be 4.7% in 2020. That's the lowest we've seen, and by 2040, we're going to see the lowest unemployment rate since 2007. That is great for the country. But that means real implications for companies. As you try to get in the talent that you want, that talent is going to cost you, more. Implications for your organization, again, like I said, real increases in wages, and companies are going to have to invest in technology as they try to automate their way out of expensive labor cost. One of the things that we're seeing now is more and more companies beginning to invest in HR shared services and trying to find a way to deliver HR products and services in a more efficient and cost-effective way. Why? Because, as I said, as we've got people like myself that are boomers, that before, in 2009, 10, and 11, was really, thinking about retiring. And now, the economy is so strong, people have choices. But at the same time, even though we're lucky, because we're lucky that boomers are going to stay a little bit longer, because there's not enough millennials to come behind and replace the boomers if they all left at the same time. Tremendous talent gap. In 2010, when you add to the fact that you've got a numerical talent gap, you've got a shift in mindsets. For an example, in 2010, 66% of college-educated men wanted a corporate job with a lot of money. In 2020, this percentage is projected to drop to 55%. Likewise, for women, you're going to see a drop from the mid-50s to, by 2020, only 35% are going to want to climb that corporate ladder. They're looking for other options. They're looking for other ways to be involved in the community. They're looking for ways to maybe even start that passion or invest or start that small company. So we've got this tremendous numerical talent gap with at the same time a big shift in how people are seeing work in the workplace. So you heard about trade wars and tariffs and things like that. I'm here to tell you that the #1 U.S. import from overseas is going to be talent. We're going to have all these jobs eventually vacated by baby boomers. And we're going to have a bunch of new jobs that's going to be created. And we're not going to have enough people to fill them. We're talking 23 million people short of what we need. Let me bring this home to my organization. Right now, we have a shortage in our Martyr Police Department, which obviously we need the Martyr Police to make sure we continue to have one of the safest transit agencies and transit systems in the country. But right now, we are 43 short. 43. Now you say, well, it's police work. It is good work. It is the kind of work that you can earn a decent wage, take care of your family, put kids through school, and with an organization that's not going anywhere. We're not going to be outsourced. And we just had a job fair in Clayton County, and we were disappointed at the number of people that came out to the job fair, and particularly expressing interest in our job. We are open for business and have numerous jobs that we are trying to fill. So this projection about the shortage that we talked about is actually coming sooner rather than later. By 2040, the United States is projected to produce only 3% of the workers entering the global workforce. Most of your workforce is going to come from Asia, India, and Africa. By 2040, the foreign-born U.S. population is going to surpass the peak of the last great wave of a century ago. Meanwhile, there's lots of talk about immigration. Immigration is going to be one of the major economic drivers of this country, and there's no way we can have a repressive economic public policy when we have such a tremendous need for it in business. I can tell you, the Chamber of Commerce has this as one of their #1 items that they're discussing with the current administration. Implications for your organization: the battle for talent is going to be immense. Organizations must create environments that are inclusive of all types of people if they want to be viable and competitive. Even if you don't plan to go global, even if you're not global, globalization is going to come to you. Culture. Once this globalization get here, we need companies, communities, and a country that is welcoming of this diversity, and so that everybody feels valued, respected, and so that they can be productive. That doesn't mean we're not going to have tension. And that doesn't mean that tension that comes with diversity is bad. What it simply means is that it's a natural outgrowth of having different people in your workforce, and you just need to be very intentional and have a good diversity strategy, a good culture strategy, a good workforce planning strategy to make sure that you can get 5 generations that also are going to be as diverse as possible in terms of race, ethnicity, national origin, to get them to work together and be productive. Diversity tension is neither bad nor good, it simply is. And as long as you've got a strong HR team, a strong diversity inclusion professionals, you'll be fine, because they'll take the lead, as we always have, to helping the company figure its way through this. The melting pot of my generation, that concept is gone. It's already been replaced by multiculturalism. And before, where we expected, encouraged, and demanded that differences melt into the mainstream. Nah, that's what we have now. People want their differences. They wear their differences as a source of pride, as a badge of honor, and they want those differences to be recognized, and they want those differences to be acknowledged. Assimilation is no longer assumed, nor is it going to be readily accepted, And this is just going to mean you're going to have to do more work. You're going to have to be more intentional in putting together strategies to make sure that all employees are valued, all employees are respected, and all employees are engaged. Implications for your organization. All of these changes in workforce and population means that you're going to have a different organization, a different organizational culture with different norms. And you just simply need to be aware that the greater the differences in your organization, the greater the willingness people want to be different, means that you're going to have a diversity of perspectives and you're going to have increased diversity tension. But as I said, the tension that results from diversity is not bad, it's not good, it's just something that is and it needs to be managed. The workplace. As the Chief Compliance Officer for MARTA, this is an area that I'm seeing very disturbing trends in, and it's going to take all of us to figure this out and come up with strategies to address it. I like to think, you think about crime in all the wrong places. Between 2010 and 2015, 28% of workers were victims of some sort of unwanted or unfavorable incident within the workplace. However, only a fraction of them, of these employees who were victims of this unwanted behavior, actually reported it to compliance, HR, workplace ethics within the organization. 37% of these incidents involved race, 20% involved sex, 18% involved religion, particularly anti-Semitism, and 16% involved sexual orientation. The decline in civility in the workplace is something that has caught the EEOC, the Department of Labor, and others off guard, because we thought that we had seen things level out and begin to improve. And obviously with the Me Too movement and some other things that have raised our awareness, there's things that's happening in society and they're coming through the front doors of our organizations. 32% of employees surveyed reported receiving threatening, harassing messages or ugly rumors spread about them online by coworkers. The use of workplace computers, such as iPads, phones, and laptops issued by the company to employees, these devices were used to commit cyberbullying. And we've seen this increase 3 times the amount that we did 3 years ago. Between 2010 and 13, cyber threats originating from company-owned devices resulted in 13% of employees taking 2 or more sick or PTO days. This behavior is, while it is as reprehensible as it is also having tremendous impacts on the bottom line. 36% of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender employees surveyed reporting that they experienced sexual harassment within the last 12 months. 20% surveyed indicated that they feared for their physical safety because of their sexual orientation and gender. Guys, this has real costs for our companies. 2 million people leave their companies every year as a result of this behavior. The amount of money, $64 billion annually, is more than the revenues of Goldman Sachs, Google, and Amazon.com and Starbucks combined. If we don't we've got to create inclusive environments to reduce this turnover and save our company money that's being unnecessarily lost. Media trends. The media landscape, obviously, our employees are influenced and shaped by what they see and hear and read. Media platforms are evolving and they're integrated in our employees' everyday work life. The average person chooses when, where, and how they're going to engage in media. Obviously, millennials as early adopters are leading the way, and millennials trust what they read on social media, even more so than they read in mainstream media, to include our internal websites and our internal newsletters and other ways in which we communicate information to them. Millennials are heavy consumers of television. They view more than 14 hours of television a day. You say, how's that possible, Dr. Goode? Because they're viewing some of it at work. You laugh. You go to your IT departments and have them run some forensics, and you'll find, people logged in at the most interesting times of day, and you'll see your streaming and all of your usage. Look, see what's happening. Views on the workplace, culture and diversity are shaped by what people see on television and what they see in television programs and things like that. You say, well, what are you saying, Dr. Goode? I'm saying that people believe that civil behavior may look like some of the behavior they see on some of their favorite reality shows. We, as HR professionals, need to let them know our workplace is not a reality show. And that, you just can't vote people off the island, treat them any kind of way, talk to them any kind of way, and then go to commercial break. No, that's not the way things are going to be. Implications for our organizations: we've got to continue to recognize the importance of millennials, especially since they outspend the general market in media. We've got to be focused on our recruiting events on millennials, people of color. Since millennials and people of color are heavy consumers of media, we have to get our message out to them in the ways in which they're going to receive it. And then we need to be very sensitive and recognize the importance of cultural nuances in all of our recruiting and marketing material. So what are we going to do, guys? We're the ones that our companies count on and pay to address these trends and to come up with HR strategies, tools, resources to help our companies continue to be successful, to help them meet business goals, earnings per share, profit and revenue targets. And we're the people that they're counting on to do it. So what are we going to do? Especially considering the shift that we see in the marketplace. You've got 68 Macy's stores closing, 253 limited stores closing, 108 Kmart stores, 42 Sears. Think about this. The largest transportation provider in the United States doesn't even own a single car. The largest hotel company in the world doesn't own a single hotel. Amazon.com just passed Walmart as the nation's largest retailer, and they don't own a single store. So what we are seeing is a complete shift in work, workers, and the workplace. So it is through conferences like SOAR 2018 where you come together, refresh your skills, sharpen your tools, benchmark, pick up on best practices so that you can take them back to your workplace and apply them. We have to take the lead. It's up to us to help our organizations take the steps to be more inclusive and make sure that we're recruiting from all sectors of society, especially considering that the new entrants in the workforce are going to be people of color, women, and immigrants. You have a recruiting strategy and a talent acquisition strategy, a retention and employee engagement strategy to make sure that you can recruit the workforce of the future and keep it. HR, we are the ones that should be facilitating ongoing dialogues with our leaders in our organization on the diversity issues. Yes, these are tough topics. Yes, these are tough times. But if we don't do it, who's going to do it? If we don't facilitate these discussions that are certainly taking place in our organization, they're going to sap the strength, the vitality, and the future of our company. We need to help our organizations put in place the infrastructure to address not only our current needs, but our emerging needs based on these trends. Remember, I'm just coming back from the future and telling you what you can expect to see in the future. We've got to take the lead. We have to know that these changing trends are going to impact on our businesses. We've got to recognize that although we've slapped this label on this particular group of employees, they do come to work with a different perspective, with different values and different things that they want. You have to adjust your HR strategies to address this. There are cultural nuances in diversity, and you need to factor them into your recruiting efforts. And as a diversity professional, to all of my colleagues out there, let's help our organization redirect their limited resources and energy away from the numbers and away from diversity awards and more to creating inclusive work environments where 5 generations and all employees can work together in a way in which everybody comes to work every day and goes home feeling valued, respected, and productive. A few resources. Forgive the shameless plugs, but I've done some research and produced a couple books, but there's a ton of resources that talk about cultural diversity and some of these changes and how you can be more intentional about creating cultures that you want to be able to address some of the trends that we talked about. Okay, Heather, keep me good on time. I think time may allow me to take 1 or 2 questions. Heather, you still there? Okay, she's not there. All right, so I'm gonna take questions until they put me off the stage. Okay. Any questions that I can answer while I'm here? And the lights are in my eyes, so I can't really see you. So, yes, ma'am. I think I see a hand up front. Yes. You're gonna speak up so they can hear you.
Sorry.
And I'm sorry you don't have a microphone.
Not a problem at all. I work in the technology space with a lot of startups. So we're constantly on the fight for talent, as you were saying, particularly with engineers and developers. And it's also a space that's not diverse. I really can count on 1 or 2 hands the number of minorities that I have in these positions. And one struggle that I'm finding is that people tend to think that hiring diverse workers means that you're actually hiring a less talented worker. And I wanted to know how you combat that.
You combat it with the facts. And all you have to do is look at, you said engineers, so let's use that. It's a field that I'm very familiar with, having been in utility and coming from a manufacturing firm that used engineers. Let's just look at the facts. When you look at not only the number, but the quality of graduates from engineering schools, you're going to find overwhelmingly, we're talking 60% or more, are going to be women and people of color. What I would challenge any organization that has that misperception is to go to schools, for an example, that you may not be recruiting from now, and simply look at the quality of the graduates. This is an argument that the data is just so overwhelmingly, we should have put this to bed a long time ago, that diversity does not mean less than. It never has, and as I said, both anecdotally and numerically, the data is so overwhelming. Anyone that has that just needs to be more enlightened, and have them come and check out the Spelman Georgia Tech Joint Engineering Program. And then let them go back to Silicon Valley and say that they're less than. Nah. We can help them with that. Again, I got light, so you're gonna have to stand up and just talk, so.
Yes. Dr. Goode, I appreciate the point that you made about the talent gap, and I also appreciate that a lot of high school students are trending towards not going to a 4-year college. But what correlation have you found or have you researched between the proposed talent gap and what I see as a wage gap? As you stated, the economic downturn is over. So organizations, have they caught up in terms of their salary bands or pay programs as it relates to, in order to be competitive in the current market?
Yeah, that's an easy one. And the answer is overwhelmingly yes. And I would direct you to SHRM's latest studies on this. Again, as the talent gap continues to tighten, what is happening is this. Let's take our own hometown of Metro Atlanta. Before, as I said, we could, when I was at Georgia Power, for an example, We went all the way to the University of Puerto Rico to get engineers. And Georgia Power even has a office right on the University of Puerto Rico's campus. And we was able to get all the talent we wanted. Okay? So let's look at what's happening. You've had the storm there. Okay? That's had an impact. Plus, that talent now comes and they look up and they say, wow. Remember, they're millennials, right? So they look up and they say, wow, I've been here 3-4 years, good company, but I'm getting phone calls. I'm getting people reaching out to me on LinkedIn. I've got options. They look out there, and all you have to do is look at SHRM's data regarding the increase in sign-on bonuses. Not just for college students, but for the amount of money it's taken to relocate and get talent away from other companies. Here's a more startling statistic. My own research shows that even when you make that heavy investment, the 57% of people that you get, a mid-career hire that you get from another company will stay with your company or a company somewhere between 32 and 33 months. Now, you say, well, what's the magical number about that? If I hire you from another company, I'm going to ask that and I give you a signing bonus, I'm going to want you to stick around a year or two, right? Soon as people get past those agreements, they're getting phone calls, they're getting recruiters reach out to them, friends reaching out to them on LinkedIn, telling them about opportunities. And if you're mobile, you're gone. Because, again, the opportunity to increase your total comp is there, not to mention to enrich your career. So you take the compensation opportunity with the ability to diversify your career, very, very tempting. And so companies are seeing that their recruitment cost, especially for mid-career hires, in terms of sign-on bonuses, the things you're having to add to, you're having to make relocation packages richer because your immediate labor pool's already been used up. And so you're having to go further out to get people. You're having to pay them more to relocate. And then they're not staying, which means then you're having to repeat that. And so there's overwhelming data that's showing that. And so companies are having to adjust their policies around recruitment faster, just as fast as they can change the policy from 2-year, you have to stay here 2 years. Now people are having to change it to 1 because people are saying, no, you know what, I'm not going to come and stay for 2 or guarantee I'm going to do that. So we're seeing those sorts of shifts. And these are shifts we didn't see, especially back in 2009, 10, and 11, when people were begging to find a job, and in some cases, taking huge pay cuts just to get back into the job market. Mm-hmm. I can't see, and then we have a mic.
I have a question that's probably another discussion at another time, but we talk about inclusion and we just talk about that term. And as HR professionals, I think sometimes we struggle with what does inclusion mean? Because as we get more and more people who are different in the workplace, you can't accommodate everybody and everything. You have a prayer room, people can't work on the weekends, don't want to work after sundown. So what do we do? How do we address that so that we are more inclusive in the workplace?
Yes, and I appreciate that because I think that's probably one of the questions we get all the time. It sounded like what you were talking about was the things organizations try to do to show they're inclusive by making accommodations. When really, if you were to survey your workforce and ask people, what is inclusion? Ask them questions such as, does my supervisor treat me with respect? Am I listened to? Are my ideas, if I make a mistake and I'm a new person, am I allowed to live with that mistake and move on? Or is it held over my head? Do people make jokes and ridicule You know, is the environment, do you have the sort of environment where a new person is told, well, you haven't been here 20 years, so you really don't know anything? Inclusion usually, or the lack of inclusion usually looks and sounds like that. If you really want to boil it down, inclusion, and this is what we're focusing on at MARTA, is showing up every day and everybody work with respect. What we found was when we instituted our Ride with Respect campaign, we were able to drive down our Part 1 crimes on our system and on our cars. And then we also found a drop in nuisance behavior and things like that. Because we told people, if you're going to ride our system, everybody wants an enjoyable, safe ride. And the best way for that to happen is for everybody to ride with respect. Now we're trying to bring that in-house to say, look, let's work with respect. Let's everybody show up. And let's, at MARTA, we like to say we're family. Then let's act like it. Let's simply treat each other with the respect that we all want. In terms of trying to, you know, whether or not you have a room for nursing mothers to, you know, to nurse, or whether or not you have a prayer room and all of those things, those are all great things. But they're not, it's the little things. It's the little things that people will tell you, I just want to be treated fair. I don't want my difference, whatever it is, to be a barrier to me having a good career, to me having a successful career, and I just want you to treat me with respect. Let me be on a team so that I can do and contribute my best work. So those are just, that would be my answer to that. I think Tom is going to allow me for one more. And oh no, it's not. Christine Browning, everybody. Let me say this. If you have questions, let's not let this be the end of the conversation. Let's let this be the beginning of the conversation. I would encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. And let me again say thank you to Kaiser Permanente for sponsoring, and thank you to SHRM Atlanta for inviting me. And thank you.
Actually was in Atlanta for many years, left the market, and recently came back. He is an amazing HR catalyst, wouldn't you say? Thank you, Shelton, for your comments today. Thank you for coming back. We love that you're part of MARTA, and we love that you're part of the SHRM Atlanta community. Thank you.